A last-minute appeal fails for a serial killer set to die. The latest on Nightcast.
Plus, health troubles you have this winter may make this allergy season even worse.
And Steve's eclipse forecast.
Nightcast is next.
This is 10 Eyewitness News Nightcast.
Good evening. 1 hour from now, killer John Wayne Gacy is set to die.
A last-minute appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court failed late today. Jim Rosenfield joins us now live from Joliet, Illinois, with the latest.
John Gacy's expected final hours have been spent in prayer and in the company of unnamed family members. A priest said Mass with Gacy about an hour ago, a short time after Gacy's attorneys learned that the United States Supreme Court has denied Gacy's request for a stay of execution. The Illinois Attorney General's office says that was Gacy's last hope.
This is John Wayne Gacy's newest and likely final home, cell number 1 here at Stateville Correctional Center. He left his death row cell in far southern Illinois for the trip by helicopter first thing this morning, reportedly joking about the lack of cocktails on the flight. Prison officials say despite Gacy's expected fate, he remains calm.
I came in at about the time he was finishing dinner. He did have the butterfly shrimp, and he said it was very good.
Gacy's lawyers, who met with him for an hour and a half this afternoon, say their client is in denial.
Gacy can watch the days of the calendar fall off just as well as we can, and he can watch the clock turn just as well as we can, but Gacy doesn't believe that the time and day is going to come where he will be executed.
Just after midnight, several corrections officers are set to hook up an IV in Gacy's arm and take him down a short hallway to the death chamber. A trio of lethal drugs delivered by a pair of unnamed executioners who will simultaneously push buttons on this machine. It was December 1978 in a suburb near Chicago's O'Hare Airport when the first of Gacy's 33 victims were discovered in a crawl space beneath his home. 27 bodies were buried there, 6 others found elsewhere on the property and in a nearby river. Relatives of some of the victims had sought to witness firsthand this final chapter in the story of America's deadliest serial killer. Instead, they will be kept elsewhere on the prison grounds during the execution. The parents of Gacy victim Johnny Zick say it's a moment that should have come long ago.
I really don't want to see a human being die, but hopefully it will help him send to rest in peace.
Gacy is set to have his last hour having quiet time, alone in his cell. Although tonight, the Illinois Supreme Court has ordered that Gacy's lawyers be given physical access to their client up until the time the execution process begins. Reporting live in Joliet, Illinois, Jim Rosenfield for ABC News.
It did not take long for jurors to decide Joel Rifkin is not insane. Late today, they convicted him for one murder. He has admitted to killing 17 women, mostly prostitutes in the New York City area. Attorneys painted 2 very different pictures of Rifkin for the jury.
3 of them he personally dismembered. He cut off their legs, he cut off their heads, and then he distributed their body parts in various locations so they'd never be found.
This disease caused him to live in a nightmare world of reality where he couldn't harness, he couldn't control his impulses. He was a slave to it.
Police caught Rifkin on a routine traffic stop last June. That's when they found a decomposing body of one victim in the back of his truck. He then told them about the other 16 women.
An 84-year-old legally blind Albany woman is hospitalized tonight after being found badly beaten this morning. Police say Bertha Kaiser of 174 2nd Street was a victim of a vicious robbery and beating that may have happened as far back as Friday night. Kaiser suffered a broken shoulder, broken fingers, and ribs and is at Albany Medical Center tonight. One neighbor who did not want to be interviewed on camera says Kaiser phoned her for help, and that call may have saved her life.
A little disoriented, and she said she wasn't feeling very well.
The city's building department also condemned and padlocked Kaiser's house because of the bad shape it's in. Meantime, police are asking for the public's help in trying to solve the case, and if you have any information, you're asked to call the Albany Police Department. Firefighters in Pittsfield got a round of applause tonight after dousing a stubborn garage fire on Newell Street. The fire started in a car. It destroyed the garage and then moved to 4 nearby buildings on Newell and E Streets. Emergency crews were able to minimize the damage to the homes.
Well, chances are many of you just watched part 2 of The Stand, the miniseries by Stephen King.
And now you can win King's newest book. Steve Caporizzo was live at Borders Bookstore in Colony, and he's got more on that. Steve, what's it about?
Jim and Cynthia, we have a great chance for you to win Stephen King's latest hardcover book out, Nightmares and Dreamscapes. It's worth $27.50. It's your chance to win this absolutely free. We're going to tell you about it in just a little bit. First of all, let's check out tomorrow at a glance, because we have not a bad day shaping up for the annular eclipse. It's going to be one of those changeable days with clouds and sun. 7 to 8 in the morning, partly cloudy and 47. Noontime, there'll be some sunshine and 60, a little bit breezy. And then 4 to 5 o'clock, partly cloudy and 63 degrees. Okay, you're probably all wondering, what are the rules and regulations for this contest? Well, here's, again, what we're giving away. We're giving away Stephen King's latest novel. It is a great book, Nightmares and Dreamscapes. And the first 40 callers with the correct answers to the next 2 Stephen King trivia questions. Okay, now the first one I think is easy for most of us. In the Stephen King story, Cujo, what breed of dog is Cujo? Our camera person here, Kevin, said a Chihuahua. I'll tell you, that's not the answer. Question number 2, what movie directed by Rob Reiner is based on Stephen King's story, The Body? Now, if you know both answers to those questions, here's the phone number, 476-WTEN, 476-WTEN. The first 40 callers with the correct answers to both questions will be winning this book by Stephen King, his latest novel, Nightmares and Dreamscapes, and we'll keep you updated on how the phone calls are coming and have the complete forecast for you a little bit later on. This looks like a great book, guys. Back to you.
All right. Thanks, Steve. And keep calling. Might take a few seconds to get through. That's
yeah,
right. 40 people jamming the lines.
Might get a busy signal, but keep trying.
Keep trying.
You may get lucky. And just ahead on Nightcast, one young man is hoping to beat the odds and get a life-saving bone marrow transplant.
And the flowers, trees, and grass certainly look great, but they can make some people miserable. Allergy season is in full swing.
I'm Cokie Roberts. Coming up on Nightline, a hunger strike, a change in U.S. policy. One man's determination to help the people of Haiti tonight.
Tonight's 10 Eyewitness News is brought to you by your local Jeep and Eagle dealer.
You can't see them and you can't escape them. Tiny particles in the air that make spring miserable for allergy sufferers, and this year is certainly no exception. Robin Schwartz has the story.
It's that time of year again. Some people stop to smell the flowers. Others can't smell a thing.
I'm getting headachy and congested, and seems like it's a particularly bad year, I guess.
Well, I've noticed my eyes itching, which they never had before, and I'm sneezing all the time, and I have a runny nose all the time. And I know it's allergies. I don't have a cold or anything. I know it's just the pollen or whatever is flying around.
What's flying around right now is tree pollen from maple, juniper, and birch trees. Last week, the birch pollen count was the highest ever recorded in our area, and that's got some people singing the allergy blues.
This has been a difficult season, primarily because it's following such a difficult winter. There were a tremendous number of respiratory infections in the community. We've had a very difficult time kind of getting spring jump-started.
But allergy doctor James DeMassey says don't blame nature's blooming beauties for the problem.
It's those ugly plants, the ones no self-respecting bird or bee would go near. Trees, grasses, weeds. Those are the ones that Mother Nature provided for by making tiny airborne microscopic seeds that become airborne.
So what's the prescription for some relief? Dr. DeMassey says staying indoors and taking medication are the order of the season. On a nice, comfortable night like tonight, you might be tempted to open your window. But Dr. DeMassey says don't. You'll just be inviting pollens and molds into your house. The bad news is things will get worse before they get better. Grass will be an irritant later this month and ragweed in August. The first killing frost should knock out the problem. That is, until next year. Robin Schwartz, 10 Eyewitness News Nightcast.
And just to give you an idea of how high that birch pollen count was last week, Steve Caporizzo tells us a count of 100 is high, and last week's count was 850. Steve does allergy reports regularly on 530 Live.
A life-threatening medical problem has a University at Albany honors student wondering whether he'll make it to graduation. Jean-Pierre Cogneris of Niskuna found out last year he has leukemia and went into remission for a time, but just last week the cancer came back. JP's doctors say a bone marrow transplant is his only long-term chance to survive, and the 21-year-old is hopeful that he will find a match.
We'll show the rest of the population that cancer is fightable. You can survive cancer. It's not the end of the world. You just have to focus and think a day at a time, and you can do it.
Cogneris is a physics major and a senior at the University at Albany. The school is sponsoring a bone marrow blood test drive tomorrow from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. in the Campus Center ballroom of the Uptown campus at 1400 Washington Avenue. The test takes only 15 minutes and could help save JP's life or someone else's.
Checking other news, Nelson Mandela was formally elected South Africa's first black president today. The man who was a political prisoner for years will now lead the Black Party in South Africa. Mandela's inauguration is slated for tomorrow. Vice President Al Gore and his wife, First Lady Hillary Clinton, and Matilda Cuomo are just some of the dignitaries there for the historic event. A judge has dismissed former LA Police Chief Daryl Gates as a defendant in Rodney King's civil lawsuit. The judge also dismissed 4 police officers who were standing by when King was beaten by other cops. According to the ruling, there isn't enough bad management by the former chief to keep him in the lawsuit. And former Vice President Dan Quayle is back in the public eye, selling his new book. It is titled Standing Firm, a personal account of the Bush years. In the book, Quayle looks back at his time as second in command, but also looks to a future in the White House.
General Electric is upping its bid to take over Kemper, and the financial services company says it will consider the $2.4 billion deal. Just yesterday, GE Finance upped its offer from $55 to $60 a share. Kemper also says it will consider any other offers, but analysts say other companies might be afraid to compete with GE's deep pockets.